already halfway through the first month of 2017, and already 2017 is eons better than pretty much all of 2016. Started up the year on vacation, hanging out with the friends of my boyfriend, had a great time, played a boatload of games. Pretty much all of them were pretty good, except Mario Kart 8, which flat out sucks. I managed to win a round of Super Smash Bros. With Jigglypuff. No joke. Started playing Pokemon Moon. This is my current team as of this taping. They are awesome. Got off vacation, went back to work. Everything is going great there. We are finally on track for me and my boyfriend to finally get our own place. And last but not least, Carl Edwards is retiring from full-time NASCAR racing. Wait, what? Okay. The rumors of a possible shocking retirement have actually been going on since mid-December. My boyfriend was hearing some rumors that something like this was going to happen, and I told him, you watch. It's going to be either Denny Hamlin or Dale Jr., and in both cases, it'd be because of their injuries of the past. Fast forward to January 10th. I'm at work. My boyfriend calls me to say, well, the possible shocking retirement might come to fruition tomorrow, and it is pretty shocking. It's going to be Carl Edwards, as reported by Fox. I'm going, Fox reported this? Yeah, right. 10 minutes later, boyfriend calls back and says that now Bob Pockris is reporting it. So that means it's a little more legitimized than if Fox and only Fox would post it. So I'm going, And this is perplexing me throughout the day. Later on at night, Ricky Craven is on SportsCenter, and Craven was saying some interesting things that may have given a little bit of hint as to what was going on. Heck, Craven even said that Carl Edwards had 2 kids, which I didn't even know until he said it. And of course, the speculations all started as to what's going on. Is something going on with his family? Is something going on with him? And then everything kind of got out of hand until the day of the press conference, which was the next day. Now, my boyfriend was able to watch it because he was off that day. I wasn't. So basically, the speculation came down to 2 things. Is Edwards simply just burned out and wanted some time away for a while? Or something going on with him or his family in terms of health? It's kind of a bit of both, but not as bad as people like us kind of made it out to be. Essentially what's going on with Edwards is that he's burned out after racing in the Cup Series for just about 13 years or so. And he says that he is perfectly fine with the way his career is, which I kind of don't get, but still. And essentially, he's in a happy place right now, and he's in a healthy place right now in terms of his health, and he wants it to stay that way. Essentially, leading to the conversations about how drivers can get beat up in later years due to all the impacts they take in the race car. Now, a lot of people, and rightfully so, have the assumption that Dale Jr.'s concussions were a factor, and Carl openly admitted that Jr.'s concussions were a factor, and he said he wanted to stay sharp for another 30 years. And it's kind of interesting from my perspective because Carl Edwards is one of the buffest guys known in NASCAR, and the only injury ever known that's ever happened to Edwards was when he broke his foot playing Frisbee. No joke. So even though it's a kind of a bit odd that someone like Edwards, who is still the top mega baddie and one of the buffest guys, and probably one of the strongest guys as well in terms of auto racing and endurance, is basically retiring because of all these health concerns, and he wants to be with his family, which to me is the more legitimate reason. And he's burned out, which also makes a little bit of sense, despite the fact there's a lot of guys who are still racing today who's been in NASCAR longer than him. It's definitely, I would say confusing is the more appropriate word than shocking. Now, since at least 5 different people asked me for my reaction to this is why I did a video, and this is what you came to see. So am I happy about Carl Edwards leaving? Because I don't think he's retiring. Of course I'm happy! We won't be able to see him again for a little while. But in all honesty, other than not being able to see him, which gets rid of one more mega baddie, I'm happy for him in terms of him wanting to be with his family. I can understand that some people would go to one of the lower level series of NASCAR, like the Xfinity series to a certain extent, and also mainly the truck series so they could be with their family more. And the good thing, in my perspective, would be basically for his health and everything. Now, I did have some concern that this retirement thing that was going on was because something was wrong with him, or something was wrong with one of his kids. Thankfully, that's not the case. So in terms of Edwards going out the way he wants to, so he can recuperate in terms of getting rid of his burnout, and him being with the little ones and all that stuff, that's cool. For me, in terms of him as a racer, Edwards leaving, that makes me very happy. I just hope that Joe Gibbs and his team does not corrupt Daniel Suarez, who's the one who's going to be taking his ride. And one of the interesting things is the fact that Carl Edwards has been the top baddie for a long while. But not many people actually know where my dislike of Edwards as a race car driver started. It actually started in 2003. It was the South Boston Truck Race. And unfortunately, the entire thing is not on YouTube. I'm hopeful someone has the race so they can show what I'm talking about. But I remember this well. Carl Edwards is racing Andy Houston for 6th place. Dennis Setzer wins the race, and Andy beats Carl for 6th. After the race, Carl wrecks Andy. Now, unfortunately, the footage that YouTube does have at the time of this does not show it, but Andy and Carl did have an encounter after the race. And I said to myself, if this guy managed to piss off Andy Houston, who knows what this guy is capable of? And sure enough, I was right. About 6 years later, and this is where it's really going to get interesting, to me, it does seem possible that Carl's racing style might be catching up to him, and Carl wants to get out before his racing style hurts him. Because I want to know if you guys reflect back to the fact that Carl has had 2 of the most infamous douchey-booshy blocks in NASCAR history. Now, 2016 Homestead, where he douchey-booshy blocked Joey Logano. And Rick Allen, if you ever say that a driver getting blocked is actually a driver wrecking someone again, I'm going to kick your butt.
Green flag back in the air. They're blocking. Go Devo. Carl Edwards into the wall. He got tagged by the 22. Big hits by the 19. And the caution comes back out again.
Anyway, when Carl did that douchey-booshy block, it caused a big mess and caused some major soreness to a bunch of drivers. He and Truex were pretty sore after that crash. And I knew that that might have something to do with it, but actually Carl Edwards' most infamous douchey-booshy block was 2009 at Talladega.
Can Keselowski try to win it?
I don't know. I don't think he can step out until he waits till the last second and picks up.
He goes to the outside. Is Edwards going?
Oh, no!
He turns him.
No!
Oh, and that destroyed the front end of Newman's car.
No!
Edwards will not make it to the flag.
Oh,
Brad Keselowski won this race.
Now, interestingly enough, that particular incident started a rivalry of sorts with one Brad Keselowski. Now, here's something you guys may not know. You guys know that Brad Keselowski is one of my NASCAR dozen. But Brad Keselowski is actually one of my NASCAR dozen because of Carl Edwards. Twice in 2010, one because of Carl doing another douchey-booshy block on a restart, and another because of a scooch and run decides to make Carl go into full crazy mode. The two incidents, one which to me was attempted murder, and the other was flat-out Carl Edwards' dirty driving. And NASCAR essentially doing nothing to Carl. That's what made me a Brad Keselowski fan. Because of NASCAR deciding to do the wrong thing once again. That's when I knew that Carl's one of their guys, and Brad is one of ours. And that's how that started. So, thank you, Carl Edwards, for making me a Brad Keselowski fan. It's also interesting considering that Brad himself mentioned a post from a few years ago talking about his rivalry with Carl. And I'll have it in the description in case you guys want to read it or haven't been able to read that yet. But over the last few years, Carl has been calming down for the most part, minus the douchey-booshy blocks and his Richmond bump and run on Kyle Busch at Richmond last year, which I found hilarious. And another interesting factoid is that it's possible that Carl and his dirty aggressive style, which not many people will admit, but believe me, it's true. It's also possible, I said earlier that Carl was getting out before his douchey-booshy blocking or his dirty driving cost him or potentially another competitor. Other people are seeing this as a retiring in the prime of your career thing. Now, when Ricky Craven was on SportsCenter, he compared this to Tiki Barber of the New York Giants, who retired at the prime of his career so you can preserve his health from the NFL. It's interesting because hearing what Edwards had to say and getting a review of what everyone believes Edwards was trying to say, it kind of reminds me of something else. You've usually never heard of a driver retiring from any form of auto racing due to his career potentially and his health potentially being put in danger. And Edwards is retiring on his own terms. This is not a forced into retirement thing like Dario Franchitti from a few years ago. One of the things that I found interesting is that the only other racer I could think of that had a similar retirement situation was the late Ricky Hendrick. Ricky had a shoulder injury at Las Vegas back in 2002. Ron Hornaday and I think a few other drivers replaced him while he was out. Ricky tried to make a comeback driving, but he just lost the racer's edge that essentially you needed. And he decided to retire at the age of 22, which unfortunately introduced us to Brian Vickers, even though people like me knows that Vickers was in the Busch Series in 2002. Because Vickers was known for something else before he got Hendrick's ride. But still, it's a potential that between Carl's way of driving and him wanting to preserve his health for the future, that this is potentially, to a certain extent, similar to the situation that made Ricky Hendrick retire. Now, the interesting thing is that Carl said he's not retiring. He's just stepping away. Now, he will not return full-time at all due to the grueling demands of the schedule, but it's possible he may appear every once in a blue moon to do some racing, maybe to help out another team or anything. So, essentially, he's going to be on a part-time basis whenever the heck he wants, when he desires. He just basically wants to recharge his batteries from that kind of perspective and be with his family, which is very neat for him, and I applaud him for that. Now, my thing, this is going to sound interesting. I don't think it's going to happen, but it might. If Carl ever wants to return full-time, he's probably going to do it in a series that's not as demanding as the Cup Series. What am I suggesting? If Carl ever gets that itch to go full-time and not wear himself down, he's probably going to return full-time, even if for a couple of seasons, to the Truck Series. That is where Carl got his start. The first race that I've seen Carl Edwards in, I remember very well. It was the 2003 Daytona Truck Race, the Daytona 250. And the reason I remember this is because under green flag pit stops, he was leading. And just as the announced team, it was the Speed's first truck race, got off of brake, Carl got arrow loose under Kenny Schrader and proceeded to crash into the wall. And I also taped that race, so yeah. I know the entire race is on YouTube, so that'd be kind of fun. But anyway, that's pretty much my perspective on the Carl Edwards full-time from racing retirement thing, but may come back as a part-timer in the future deal. So that essentially is my reaction to this entire thing. It was more confusing than shocking. And this culminates everything from that first trying to take out a racer just because he beat you for 6th place incident at South Boston in 2003. From Carl's last douchey-booshy block. It essentially sums up Carl's career, and it kind of feels like that between him not wanting to get hurt any further because of the way he drives, and because he wants to be with his family more, and he wants to preserve his health, and potentially Dale Jr.'s concussion scared him off a little, but not enough where he says he's not fully retired, he's going to be a part-timer, if anything. Essentially wanting to be with his family, preserve his health, and the fact that he's burned out from the 38 race schedule, if you count the All-Star race and the, whatever they call the pole running race at Daytona now. I think they changed it again. Anyway, this is basically Carl wanting to recharge his batteries. And it's a great opportunity for Daniel Suarez. I just hope that he doesn't fall under that loom of moving up too soon or being corrupted by Joe Gibbs Racing, which is what they're doing nowadays. So that's it from my perspective. What's your guys' opinions about all of this? I told you my opinions about it, and I want to hear yours. Thank you everyone for watching. This is Ultimate23Dragon, and that's my final answer.
On the outside lane, 3 wide to the win at Daytona. Wow, what a finish. That was incredible. How did he do that?